Hey everybody, it's John Brown, the Bandana Gamer, coming to you today with a response video to one of my favorite YouTubers' videos. Linda, aka the Gamer Girl, put out an amazing, a super awesome video on comic book recommendations. Comic books based on video games that she had checked out and thought we should all read during this lockdown period that we're all in. She put together an amazing list, a list of things I didn't even know about that weren't even on my radar. I look forward to trying to get a hold of the Sonic European comics she talked about. And it's a really great video and great list, and I definitely recommend you go check it out. A link to her video will be in the description for this one. But it got me thinking. I am a longtime comics fan, and I adore comics. I've written about comics, and I just love comics, and especially when they cross over with video games. And her video made me think, what would I recommend for video game players looking to get into comics to fill some time that they may have now that we're all on self-quarantine? And so I came up with 3 comic book series and titles that I wanted to recommend based on a love of video games. Now, some of these are not direct adaptations of the video games. They have video games that are connected to them. And so that's why my list is a little different. But I also have some stuff that I got into because I was playing video games and it led me down a rabbit hole. So the first thing I want to recommend out there is Tom Taylor's run on the Injustice comic. Now, Injustice, if you don't know, is the video game that is put out by NetherRealm Studios they flip-flop between putting out a Mortal Kombat game and then an Injustice game now. But Injustice is a video fighting game based on the DC properties and kind of a Justice League title. It is a Batman versus Superman kind of story. And the world of Injustice is really, really cool. And the comics, oh my gosh, the comics that DC put out in support of this. This basically, they did a 5-year run for the first game and have followed it up for the second game. But it's just amazing. It starts out giving you the prequel to the story, but then kind of follow throughs and adapts the story from the game into comic form in a way that is just mind-blowingly awesome. Like, there are some good comic adaptations out there of DC properties, like the Arkham series stuff has been adapted into comics in a fine manner. Not great, but not terrible. This is awesome. Like, even if you didn't play video games and just wanted a Superman, Batman, or Justice League story, I would recommend picking this up, even with no knowledge of the game itself. I would actually maybe go as far as to say this is one of the best Justice League stories in the last decade. So I highly, highly recommend picking up the Injustice series. They have put them out in a wide variety of formats. It started off as mini comics digitally, and you can still pick up those. They then would collect those into single floppy issues, the normal comic book size, and you can back issue those and find those in a lot of places. Or they've put together a bunch of collections, like this collection I have right here collects the first year of the Injustice comics and is just really, really cool. And I cannot say enough. Tom Taylor, the writer on this, did an amazing, amazing job translating the video game into this comic and even going beyond what the video game had to offer. So that is my first recommendation. Now, as many of you know who watch this channel know, I am a huge Power Rangers fan, and I picked up and did an unboxing for Power Rangers Battle for the Grid for the Nintendo Switch. It's also available on the PlayStation 4. The story mode of this tells the story of Lord Dracon fighting Rangers from all kinds of different dimensions. So you get Power Rangers of all kinds, Mega Force, Power Rangers Time Force, a personal favorite, and just a whole gamut of others to check out. But the story, if you follow it, kind of feels like you're missing some pieces. And that is because the story is actually an adaptation of Kyle Higgins' run on Power Rangers, focusing on the event, the Shattered Grid. The Shattered Grid is the story that you kind of see it that play out in Power Rangers Battle for the Grid if you do the story mode. But it doesn't, once again, you don't get the whole story if you just start with Shattered Grid, which is volume 7 and 8 of the collected editions of Kyle Higgins' run. Really, to get a full understanding of who Lord Dracon is and what's going on in this version of the Power Rangers universe, you got to go back and start with Volume 1 of Kyle Higgins' Power Rangers comic. And it is an amazing comic. If you are a Power Rangers fan, but you've matured a little, this is the comic for you. Like, this tells these tell really good, full, solid stories. It starts right after Tommy became the Green Ranger. And Kyle Higgins did an amazing run. It was 8 volumes like this. There are some bigger collected editions, and then there are, of course, the floppies if you want to do the back issue thing on it. But I can't recommend a modern comic series more than this one. I've absolutely adored going through this comic. There's actually even an original graphic novel that Kyle Higgins did called Soul of the Dragon, which tells this kind of cool noir story about Tommy the Power Ranger kind of coming to the end of his story, which was really, really great. I recommend picking that up. But if you really want to understand the story that's in Battle for the Grid for Power Rangers, pick up Kyle Higgins' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers run and go through the 8 volumes. It really helps flesh that story out. Now, a little disclaimer before I get into the next comic book. I want to be clear that I understand something. And I want to be very, very clear that I know this. Uncle Scrooge comics, Scrooge McDuck comics, are not DuckTales. They serve as the inspiration for DuckTales, but they are not DuckTales. Scrooge McDuck comics are not DuckTales. Now that I have gotten that out of the way. A while back, Retronauts did a podcast on the DuckTales video game, and they gave an amazing history of Scrooge McDuck, the character. So much so, I became a huge Scrooge McDuck fan. That is my favorite Disney character now. I drool over anything Uncle Scrooge related, and specifically the Uncle Scrooge comics. So if you're a fan of the DuckTales game and like the character Scrooge McDuck, I very much recommend picking up the Don Rosa collection, especially the Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. There are 2 volumes. This is the first. And reading through these. These are amazing, amazing, amazing comics. It really makes you appreciate the depth that the author Don Rosa, who is inspired by Carl Barks, the actual creator of Scrooge McDuck, and just all he goes through. The extra material in all the Don Rosa volumes are really great. And I have loved DuckTales more because I've gotten to experience these comics. I love the DuckTales video game more because I have got to read through the Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. It is just an amazing story, and how detailed it is, and how much history that they actually give the character Scrooge McDuck. Cannot recommend picking up the Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck or any Don Rosa comic more. Like, it has become my absolute favorite in the last 2 years. I'm pretty much reading exclusively through the Don Rosa Scrooge McDuck comic series as I get my hands on them. I even, on the back wall there, have a hand-drawn sketch of Scrooge McDuck by Don Rosa. If you are a fan of DuckTales the video game and really like the character of Scrooge McDuck, pick this up. It is an amazing comic, The Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. So that'll do it for this video and my recommendations. Let me know what comics you're reading or what video games are connected to comics that you really love in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button and give me a subscribe. And my friends, I hope you are all staying safe, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.